Okay, welcome. And I understand from Rochelle that you've been working through the myth of freedom. And I understand that Rochelle taught the majority of this particular chapter on meditation in action. But she left this last subject for me because it's difficult. It's not that difficult, but I found it difficult to prepare for, and as I remarked to Rochelle before, and the reason is that this subject is very little taught in the Tibetan tradition. In fact, it's not taught. I did a lot of looking around, couldn't really find much. As a matter of fact, according to Jamgon Kongtrul, who wrote the Treasury of All Knowledge back in the 19th century, it's a 10-volume, compendium of the entire Buddhist path. He classifies this as part of the path of meditation, which is one of 5 stages on the Bodhisattva journey, and it's the 4th of 5. And the interesting thing is that it's only practiced by beings who are liberated, arhats, bodhisattvas, and so forth, from beings who are liberated from the cycle of suffering. And in fact, I was once a party to an online flame war on this very subject. Believe it or not, the people things find to argue about are incredible. But a follower of the Sakya school was taking the position that I just explained, which is that the Eightfold Path is really only to be practiced by enlightened beings, by liberated beings. And followers of other schools were arguing with him that no, that wasn't so. And it got very heated. We're going to look at this from the point of view of Trungpa Rinpoche's commentary. And he definitely seems to explain it in a way that us ordinary beings can relate to. So he certainly is teaching from the point of view that this does apply to us, quite personally, and in a very ordinary way. But in terms of commentary, there's really just about nothing. And it seems to me, doing the reading, that Trungpa Rinpoche was really speaking here from his own experience, and that's what he's sharing with us. So, where does this teaching come from? This is really an interesting point. It comes from the Dharmachakra Pravartana Sutra, which means the Turning the Wheel of Dharma Sutra. And this was the first thing that the Buddha taught after his enlightenment. After his enlightenment, he waited for 2 months, and then when he met these 5 mendicants, these 5 people he had been practicing austerities with during the previous several years, this is what he taught them. He taught about the 2 extremes, the Eightfold Noble Truths, and that was the first thing he taught. So this is basic stuff, it seems to me. And in particular, the Buddha describes the Eightfold Path as being the middle way. And in the sutra, he describes this as the middle way between the 2 extremes of austerity, basically depriving ourselves, for the sake of discipline, and on the other hand, total self-indulgence, which doesn't lead anywhere. So this, he said, was the middle way that leads to enlightenment, leads to realization, to the cessation of suffering. So this is important. It's basic and it's important. And I think Trungpa Rinpoche was pointing to this when he says in this chapter that wisdom happens to be a domestic affair, which I thought was great. So in other words, it's not extraordinary, but it's ordinary. It's simply seeing things as they are, which, doesn't take, any particular transformation. We don't have to become better or different in some way in order to see things as they are. Actually, all we have to do is follow these particular 8 steps. So let's get into them. So the Eightfold Path has 8 stages or 8 steps to it, and those are right view, right intention, right speech, right discipline, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi or meditation. Okay. So what does it mean that these are the right way to do those things? It doesn't mean right as opposed to wrong. Rinpoche is quite clear about that. Somewhere in this chapter he does make that point that it's not that we're trying to do things right as opposed to doing them wrong, but it's simply a matter of seeing things clearly, seeing things as they are, seeing what the situation requires of us, and then acting in accord with that.